Hey guys, what is going on? My name is Liam and today I'm going to be reviewing and critiquing my previous short film, The Furrow. If you have not seen The Furrow yet, go check it out first. It's going to be the first link in the description down below. Now before I get started, I just want to let you guys know if you're interested in seeing any behind the scenes photos or anything going on that I'm working on, to follow me at Instagram. My Instagram is @Liam_Forrest. It'll be on the screen. I'm going to be keeping the same format as the last video, so I'm going to be starting off with the backstory and pre-production of the project, then my favorite aspects of the project, and then finally my actual critique of the project. I filmed this in March of 2017, so before this I had filmed Roulette and The Edge. I was ready to do something that was a little bit less pre-production heavy, something with less actors, less locations, just something that was overall a little bit easier to shoot. I also realized I hadn't really tried to shoot a horror film in a long time. It's a genre that I really enjoy, and something I realized I haven't really gotten a lot of practice of, and something I want to do in the future, so I figured it's around time to try to write something more horror-oriented. On previous projects, The Edge specifically, it was a challenge to find not only the right locations, but locations that we could actually use and film in. When I was writing the script for The Furrow, I was trying to write it keeping in mind locations that I knew I would have access to. For example, I knew I could use my apartment. I knew there was a beach nearby that I could use. When you're writing a script, one of the hardest parts, for me at least, is to be able to visualize a location that you don't know if you have yet, or just kind of shooting one out in the air and then hoping you can find it. Now on to some of my favorite aspects from the project. Same as last time, one of my favorite parts of The Furrow is the cinematography and the imagery. A couple of my favorite shots were actually shot using only natural light. While the whole outdoor field scene does look great and that was shot using only natural light, specifically I'm talking about the wide shot of the shower and the bus scene. I also really enjoyed the score that Andy did for the project. As a story that's mostly told visually, having that great music to help drive the plot really gives it a boost. That actually segues into my next point, which was we were able to tell a story with not much dialogue. There is dialogue in it, and I'll get to that also a little bit later in the critique section, but I enjoyed how we were able to tell a story, and I don't think there's any dialogue until around 4 minutes into the piece. On a more specific note, something that I really enjoyed about this short film was the specific scene where the hands come out of the doorway. That was a scene that I had in mind since the very first idea of this project, so being able to pull it off so closely to what I had in mind when I imagined it was pretty cool to see on screen. The way we pulled this off was we had a black curtain hanging off a C-stand behind the doorway to get perfect blackness behind that. Turned off as many lights as we could in the area. We had an actor getting makeup on in the other room, so we could turn off every single light, but the black curtain helped a lot. We had the camera locked down at a very low angle across the room. We tried to be able to get it so you could see the entire door. Me, Tim, and Andy basically got on other sides of the door, covered our fingertips with blood, and we sectioned it off. We set a marker on the door and we're all below it, and then we wrapped our hands around. Then we cut and then moved up to the top, all above that line. That way I could composite the two shots together and make it look like there is 12 people instead of 3. Now for my critiques of this project. Probably the biggest critique that affected both production and the final product the most would be the lack of organization on this project. For all my previous projects, I've tried my best to make sure I have everything mapped out. I have a shot list, I've gone over everything with the actors, I know exactly what my locations are, what times we're doing things, but on this one, it kind of just didn't happen. I don't really remember exactly why I didn't get around to it, but from doing so, we suffered on set due to the lack of preparation. Because of this, we ran into some issues on the first day that could have been fixed by properly scheduling everything and make sure everything would have worked in the time frame. We basically started off the day by getting makeup done on actors, and from there going to lunch since it was around midday, and from there we went to my jogger scene, and from there we went to the final field scene. I believe that we should have definitely laid this out in a different way, putting the field before everything, getting lunch in between, then doing the jogger scene afterwards. There's a couple reasons why I wish we did this differently. First, I feel like we wasted a lot of time due to this by me not being able to say, let's go exactly to the spot, do exactly this, and we're going exactly here. As a director, you should be able to know everything in your head beforehand, and I didn't exactly have that locked down. I also feel like it was a little bit unprofessional towards the actors. After they had gotten their makeup applied and gone in the mood, we had gone over their motivation, I was not able to put them in the scenario and execute what we had just talked about. Instead, they had to tag along while we got stuff figured out and shot the jogger scene, and then had to go all the way across town to go to this spot. And I feel like we could have saved a lot of time and also energy by doing things in a different way. A couple little critiques I had is I wish I had edited dialogue a little bit differently. I feel like I did a lot of L cuts. If you're unaware, an L cut is where dialogue from one shot overlaps either backwards onto the previous shot or overlaps onto the next shot to kind of smooth out the transition in between the two. And due to this, the conversation seems to really jump around from character to character. I feel like it might have been a little bit more powerful if we really got to focus on one character before cutting away to show their reaction. I just feel like I could have done that a little bit differently, but ultimately it's not the end of the world and it doesn't affect the short film too heavily, I think. One thing I noticed after watching the final thing is it's not so much a horror film as it is just kind of creepy throughout. This is something I wish I could have adjusted in writing to make it more scary and shocking to the audience. Despite that, I'm still really happy with it, and it's just something to keep in mind for next time I shoot a horror film. Like I said before, this film really relies on visual storytelling, but that doesn't mean that there isn't any dialogue in it. Like I said last time, dialogue is one of my weak spots, and I feel like the few times that it's used in this short film, it's not as strong or powerful as it should have been. Those dialogue bits should have really been used to be able to tell more information to the audience or create more drama or horror or fear, but I don't really think it does all it can or could be. Now, my final critique doesn't actually have anything to do with the pre-production or the story of the project. It comes down to how the final product was handled. The way this project was handled after I did the final cut is I had to send it online to Andy for him to do the grade and score. Once he did the grade and score, he sent it back to me. From that already, there's a pretty big loss in quality from it having to be sent and sent back. There's a lot of grain that was showing up, some artifacting that's going on in some of the darker spots. You can really tell in the opening scene there's actually a lot of grain if you punch in. It's not the most noticeable thing. I always watch it in 4K, so it probably looks a hell of a lot worse when you're actually viewing it at 1080 or below that. To make things worse, once everything was done and finished, I had to make some adjustments to some credits. And a little tip right there, always make sure you know your credits before you finalize your project. Doing so, I had to take the final cut, drop it into Premiere again, make some adjustments to the credits, and then export that already exported and grainy file again. And from there, it got uploaded to YouTube, which converts to H.264, which makes it therefore even worse quality. Saying that all out loud, it really actually doesn't look so bad for all it's gone through. It's just something that is a little pet peeve of mine. If you look at the original footage, it looks way cleaner looking than it does on the actual post. So that is it for my critique and reflection of the Furrow. I hope you guys liked it. I'd love to know what you guys thought about the actual short film. Leave it in the comments down below. Till then, I will see you in 2 weeks when I'm dropping in behind the scenes for this project. Action.